Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the hosts of the Chasing Tomorrow podcast, where we bring you stories that delve into the science and spirit behind intriguing people doing extraordinary things.
Welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast. This week, episode 30. Today we have Joe Fejes on. Now, Joe has won Big's Backyard Ultra. He's a former member of the US 24-hour team, but he's also the world's greatest 6-day runner. Joe has run 606 miles in 6 days. Now, the really cool thing about our podcast is that we get to get underneath the skin and ask the really difficult questions on why and how. And I know all of you listeners are wondering right now, why on earth would you want to run around a 1 mile loop for 6 days straight? And how on earth could you run 606 miles within that 6 days? So welcome to the show, Joe. And how are you doing today?
Doing great. Actually, down here in Florida at the cottage, and looking forward to joining your podcast tonight.
Hey, Joe, thanks for being on. Before we get to the 606 miles and the Big's Backyard experience and so on, I always sort of like to hear a little bit about how you got there. Did you start as a young lad as a runner? Did you run in high school, college? Did you always sort of know, you were going to go longer distances? Give us a little bit of the, who Joe Fejes is from the get-go.
Sure. I started running, I guess, when I was probably 14, and I started doing a couple miles a day and around the neighborhood, and went and actually bought some real running shoes. I don't know if it was Nike Pegasus at the time or something, an earlier version, but learned that there was such thing as a marathon, and so I decided I was going to run a marathon, and I think I was going to sign up for one the next week. And I went to the running store, and they said, "Well, how much you've been running?" I said, "Oh, a couple miles a day." And they said, "Son, you better wait till you need to get some more training in there." So I actually increased my training. I started running with I had turned 15. I started running with some of the local better runners, training with them. We'd go over to Stone Mountain, Georgia, and there was Benji Durden, the Olympian, and Lee Fiddler. A lot of the regional or national world-class runners would show up from time to time. So it was kind of exciting to get to run with some of the older runners. Running the Joe Steele Rocket City Marathon in Huntsville, Alabama. It was 15 to 19 age group, and I remember distinctly getting beat by another 15-year-old Dink Taylor, who fast forward 20, 30, 40 years and come across Dink in all of the Southeast ultra races, and once again got beat by Dink. It's kind of funny how that lasted from running, when I was 15 all the way up until 50. But so after I ran in high school, ran track and cross country, didn't do anything special, but was good enough to run for Emory University in Atlanta. I ran track and cross country there. Ran the 800 meters, had a decent 158.
That's a good time.
Division III. I got to go to Division III cross country championship. I finished next to last out of, I think there was 350 runners, and there was one runner on my team that I looked behind, and it was a little bit humiliating to have a spectator saying, "Come on, you can finish," So and one other just quick story. I remember I was going to transfer to Georgia Tech, and the Georgia Tech track coach, I said, I'd like to run for Georgia Tech. I'd like to run the 800 meters. And he said, "Well, son, what's your time?" And I said, 158. And he laughed a little bit and he said, son, he said, you couldn't even train with us. And pretty much right then and there, I knew that, I wasn't going to be a Division I runner. I wasn't going to really be a world that was going to be my life, but I didn't let it get me down. I ended up after college focusing I wanted to run the Boston Marathon, so it was the 100th running of the Boston Marathon. So I trained with a friend and focused on trying to qualify. I ended up running 2:47 at the Twin Cities Marathon. I guess that was 19, what was that, 91?
Nice.
Was that 19, no, 19, I want to say the 100th running was a 91, but so I ran I qualified at Twin Cities, ran the Boston. I don't know. It was more of a social run than it was competitive. And then I stopped after the day after Boston. I thought I'm done. So I stopped for probably 10 years. Didn't run a step in 10 years. Played a lot of golf. Got out of shape. Decided I need to get back in shape. Started running with a local running group that said, "Hey, we're going to do this relay race it's the Blue Ridge Relay, a couple hundred miles from I can't remember, the corner of Virginia to Asheville, North Carolina." So we had an ultra team of 6, and I ran, I don't know, 30 or 40 miles of it. And I was like, heck, kind of like this running further, and found out there was there was such thing as a 100-mile race. So I said, okay, let me try that. So I actually looked up somebody in the local running community that had run 100 miles and said, hey, I signed up for this 100-mile race in Alabama called Pinoti 100. It was a trail race, a 100-mile trail race, and it was a tough trail race. I'm not much of a trail runner. And I said, am I crazy for running it? And they said, well, no. How far are you? How much you've been training? I said 60 miles a week or so. I had not run marathon at that point ever.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple months later, I tried running the 100 miles. Was doing really well up to, well, it was kind of funny because at the time, we're probably 10 miles into it, and I see people were walking up the inclines, the mountain, the climbs, and I said, why are people walking? And they said, you'll find out soon enough. So sure enough, after probably about 50 miles, is when I had a black long sleeve shirt, and I just remember being covered with salt, just white salt. And my hip flexor started tightening up. There was at this race, there was a lot of blowdown from a tornado. Had to keep climbing the blowdowns. Long story short, 80 miles, I ended up pulling the plug, and that was the one spot of the race you're supposed to pull the plug. But I think that really hooked me on what ultra running was about. That hey, it's not easy. And then the ups and downs that Dave, you go through in doing a 100-mile race, or any ultra for that matter, it is that's where the mental and physical challenge is something that you say, okay, I want to go back and redeem myself. I want to go back and do this, and then it escalated from that point on.
Right. So let's, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to backtrack a little bit, Joe, because, I've had the absolute pleasure of running with and racing you in a number of multi-day races. And, amongst the group that's typically at these, let's call them 6-day races, there are a lot of really gritty, stubborn sons of bitches. Let's put it that way, right?
Sure.
But you're the grittiest one of them all. While everybody else is crumbling. Joe Fejes is over there just grinding away. That unto itself is a very, very different outlierish characteristic. And so I want to go back to kind of your upbringing in your childhood and your parents or those role models that you have in your life, because what did they say and do, and what was your environment like that kind of created that? Because that is very, very specific, and the success that you've had within 6 days is mostly, I think, just because of your complete and utter grit. Tell me more about your childhood and your upbringing when it came to your role models.
I mean, my dad was insurance sales, was not a runner. My mom was a homemaker, but I'll tell you what, I guess one feature, I guess I from birth, I had hearing aids, so it was always a little bit of a playing basketball and um, getting your hearing aids, knocked out your ear into the court. It was, I always felt like I was a little bit of the um, underdog when it came to being picked for sports, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whatever. But I always had the motivation to show people that I can do okay. So, whether that contributed to any, ultimately in running long distances, I don't know. But, I can't say that there was any one thing in my childhood really that I can attribute, but I guess that could give you, a little bit of insight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's build off that a
Yeah.
little bit as you sort of found your way. So you do your first 100 and you drop out at 80 miles, but that's a pretty good accomplishment. You're sort of a little bit hooked. Did you ever sort of think, if we go back to that coach at Georgia Tech who said, well, you can't even run with these guys. Did you ever sort of have in your mind that you'd be a guy who'd be out there winning races and breaking records? When did you give yourself permission to think that way?
No, so after that, I think, I ended up running. I think one of my first few were strolling gym that Gary Cantrell last puts on, and did pretty good. And it was a 50K on the road. It felt like I was in the, I don't know, top, probably top 15, top 20. And then I signed up for 24-hour Black Mountain Monster, and I think I ran 116 miles. That was a course record. It wasn't an easy course, and one of the more experienced 24-hour runners said, "Hey, you should try qualifying for the U.S. team." And I said, "U.S. team? What the hell is that all about?" They said, "Well, there's such thing as a 24-hour U.S. team, and you got to run like 140 miles in order to do it. But sign up for something that's more conducive to running longer distances for 24 hours." So I ended up signing up for Hinson Lake, and so that, I don't know if you're familiar with Hinson Lake 24-hour, but it's I think about a mile and a half trail, easy trail, flat. A couple hundred people sign up, so you're dodging people. It's not like a track or anything. It's not a easy, but it's fair. It's you can put up some decent miles. So I show up, I start running in the top three for the first 30 miles, and I keep getting just lapped and lapped and lapped by this young kid. Or at least he looked young to me, and um, I was like, oh, what if he's doing intervals? What if he's like a college guy doing intervals? And 30 miles, 40 miles, he's still going. And so I end up running. I had some low spots, but I ended up running, I think it was 132 miles, which is good.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
got beat by 50K. The guy ran 164 miles, which was like a mile off of the American record. And I said,
Wow.
who is this guy?
Yeah.
A
Who is
guy
this
named
guy?
This is Mike Morton,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
who holds the American record with 172. In his 164 at Hinson, to me, because I've watched both of it, both his performances, his American record and the World Championship, and what he did at Hinson, and Hinson was a superior mark in my opinion. And I remember, trading messages with him after the race. I said, I didn't see you have any low spots from start to finish. That's the one thing I remember. And he responded. He said, "You just didn't see my tears at night." And
Wow.
that really stuck with me. What he
Mm.
said, and he encouraged me. He said, you can run 150 miles, weather, because it was warm that day. He said, weather conditions, you could do 150 miles. And that his words of confidence is, I think, what really gave me the confidence that, okay, I could do this, and then it was, I signed up for, like, the next one was the North Coast U.S. Championship. Signed up for that, and I was intimidated. It was guys, I think it was Serge Arbona, who was Harvey Lewis, um,
Mhm.
you know, and I didn't think I was going to have a chance. I can't remember John Olson. No, that was I don't think he was in that particular one. Long story short, I qualified with like 140 miles, and I didn't have a crew person. I didn't know. I mean, I still was fairly new to the sport, and I didn't know really what the recipe for success was. But I just ran hard, tried not to take breaks, and do it. But funny story is that um, Harvey and we were battling for that last spot, and he bumped, I bumped him, he bumped, we both signed up for fans in Minnesota. He bumped me, and either the alternate spot, and was able to go to, I guess that was like 2012. We went to Poland, and we ended up getting third, behind, I think it was France and Germany. We were in, Mike Morton broke the American record with the 172. I think I ran 145. It was a personal best at the time. 145. I think Harvey went 146. Scoring members. But it was a heartbreaker because we were in first up until the last like hour, and then dropped to third. So it was a little bit of a bitter defeat. But
And was it that you guys were struggling and slowing down, or were the other teams increasing their speed and picking up?
Germany, if you looked at the splits, the top three guys were almost dead on even split,
Mhm.
and we were slowing down. We didn't have at the time, we didn't have the best information. So uh, it was partly logistical mistakes, and partly, I think, inexperience in Germany, was very, very, very experienced. And I think they just, the following year, I qualified again. This time we had Mike. I think he was hurt, so he couldn't run. But we had a newcomer, John Olson, John Dennis, Harvey, myself, Nick Curry, and we only had five guys. So we're missing number six, and um, I remember John Dennis in the bus. We said, what are you expecting to run? He said, I think I'm going to run, low 160s. 160. Your best ever is 140. How the hell are you going to do that? Race starts. I'm running with should have been. I'm running with John Olson for probably the first marathon, which was way too fast for me. It was nice and comfortable. I remember runners, Ivan Kudin from Italy, and Florian from Germany were just, there was a number of runners that were just lapping John, and he's just very calm, cool, and said, look, 160s normally win the world, and that's what I'm going for. Long story short, well, we did have some it was driving hail, which was unique. But long story short, John Olson wins with 167 miles. John Dennis gets second place with 162.
Hmm.
And I did a personal best of 154. Well, I had 156 before that at Desert
Hmm. At Desert Solstice, yeah.
Solstice. But anyway, we won the gold.
Hmm.
We won the
Wow.
gold, and it was just an absolute, stunner. Um, and
Yeah,
so that was pretty much my 24-hour career in a nutshell, I would
right.
say.
So
And
how does
then
it go from there, Joe?
I always
Oh, sorry. So how does it go from there,
um
from your 24-hour, career and, falling in love with the 24-hour race, and how far can you travel within a 24-hour period of time, either on a 400-meter track or two-mile loop or whatever it is? How does that transition to then now, I would even say, a better career, a more successful career in multi-days, in 6-day racing? How does that transition take place?
yeah, it was just the always the feeling like, I think the longer the race, the better mentally I felt like I can compete.
Hmm.
So I never felt like I was a 50K guy, I was a 100K guy, or I was a 100 mile, or even a 24. I always felt somewhat intimidated. But when I thought, well, heck, in a 3-day race, you got more variables there that you don't have to necessarily be the fastest runner there. You can make up in other means. So I think just I was intrigued by, hey, let's try doing something longer. Let's go 3 days. At the time, I don't think 6 was really in the picture. It was let's do 3 days. And I went out to across the years, and I think the first time I ran 280. And I had somebody say, hey, that's a good performance. You're sleeping squared away at this, that, just the little steps that in multi-day running you need to really take care of if you want to do well. So, it's the second time I do the 3 days across the years. I ran 329 miles, which was a good performance, a very good performance. I think that's still the course record for 72 hours there. And then when I did that, I was like, okay, maybe I've got a chance on the 6 day. You know, I knew that the U.S. record, the official was 5:54 at the time, I think, or yeah, 5:54, and then Stu Middleman had done 5:72. And then I knew Giannis had done 6:44 or crazy
Hmm.
amounts.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'm gonna do a 6 day. Let's do it. So I signed up for across the years, find out that Giannis is going to be there. And I had met Giannis at the 24 hour. Me and him, I think he ended up getting me the first time. I got him the second time, but I knew, I had a little idea what his running was going to be like. And I was just super, super nervous. Um, you know, before the race, during the race, and um, so it was a battle. And I'll never forget it. I mean, I remember, the
What year was
couriers
it,
were
Joe?
offering $400.
What year was it
This
that you?
was what? This was probably 2015, I want to say.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I remember, Joe, as well too. There was a
Okay.
little bit of controversy after that because Yanis was saying, at the end that, it's, Joe should have run his own race. He was running the same
Oh
lap
yeah,
time that I
yeah.
was, or something or other. And myself personally, I was thinking, well, Joe was in the lead, he was in control, and of course he could run whatever lap time he wants, right? So
Yeah, I mean, at the time, in every 6 day I've been in, emotions for 6 day runners just go off the chart. And
absolutely.
what you say, absolutely, I've said stuff, but in hindsight, there's some things that he said that I take to heart, that I agree with in some respects. But the thing, that in what the thing I regret is I didn't have my hearing. I couldn't really talk to him to really understand what his concern was, and I wish I had that chance to do so, because he's my hero. I mean, he is the guy. So during going back to the race itself, the Currys were offering $400 for the first person to 400 miles, $500 the first person 500 miles. And I wanted to win the money. And I had met Mike Dobies. That was the first time I really met Dobies. And he volunteered to help with Rich Schick. And so it was nice to have a numbers guy that was telling me, okay, here's what you need. I didn't really have a plan. But I was trying to win the money. So some of the streets, the sleep strategies is, okay, when's Giannis going down? When Giannis goes down, no, maybe I can go down. And you get into, you should be running your own race. If you want to get the optimal miles, you should run your race. And, it's the tension of letting competition get in your sights. So there was a little bit of that, but what the other thing I remember is, day one, I thought I was going to have to drop from the race because I think the peroneal tendonitis or tibial tendonitis. I had a red welt, and then it felt like my tendon had the sheath had unraveled, and I thought I was going to have to. I thought I was going to have to stop. I had Rich Schick, my crew chief, was an Army medic, and he said this is not you're not going to be a permanent injury. You're fine. You can keep running. It's going to be annoying, but it's not going to get any worse. So with that, I continued to run, and it was generally okay up until the last day, and then I felt like it unraveled further, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish, and I was scared. I wanted to win the race, and I had to do everything I could not to let Giannis know that I was struggling. Mm-hmm. So from day one to the end, from start to finish, it was a strategic, to me, battle in many respects. And he had 3 or 4 crew guys. I had, there was a lot. It was to me, I'll never forget the atmosphere, in running it. And I learned a lot. That was a learning experience for your first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't imagine. So. But Joe, we've both been there at 6-day races, and everyone is looking and noticing when someone's off the track taking a nap, when somebody else is getting foot care. Everybody's paying attention, because it's not necessarily that you're racing them. You're using them as targets to to propel yourself for an extra hour or two on the course, so before you can end up getting another nap or whatever. So no, it's all fair play for sure.
Yeah, I think that sort of part of the decision you're making, though, is you want to win, and then you want to get the most miles you can. And I think if someone's complaining about that, then they're the ones who have sort of lost track of what they're to do. They should be running their race, not worrying that you're on the same lap.
Yeah, well, so at the towards the last day, I was holding on for dear life mainly because of my injury. And I've been running hard, and Dobies was telling me, look, you stay on his lap. The longer you stay on his lap, the harder it is for him to get the lead again. And at this time, I think I've got 5-mile lead. And so, I did, I latched on and would run his pace, so to speak, for a significant, it felt like it was 3 or 4 hours at a time. And there was a number of times where I thought he was going to drop me. And he stepped off the track. And it was, but it is just, when you run 6 days, it beats you up physically and mentally. And, like I said, it's easy to let your emotions and say things, after the race you don't mean, and this, that, and the other. So,
Well,
but,
yeah,
but
Joe,
so
yeah, as well too, it's demoralizing. I mean, you like to think that you're pushing hard at the end, and let's say so 5 miles was 5 laps, right, of that course. And so, if he's working really hard and he's not dropping it to a 4 lap lead and then a 3 lap lead and a 2 lap lead, but it's always a 5 lap and always on the five and on the five and the five, that's demoralizing. You take
is it,
that as what do I have to do here? The person in the lead is always the one in control with these timed events, I find. Would you agree?
yes, I mean, towards the latter half of the race, then it gets, it does get very, very frustrating. When I ran with Wolfgang Schwark in Hungary, the second time, he, there, he would sleep. Him and Giannis would sleep about 10 hours during the 6 days, 10 to 12 hours during the 6 days. Over, I was sleeping 27. I'm off track, probably 35 total, but sleeping 27 hours. And so, yes, I'm faster when I'm out there, but I go down to sleep for a couple hours for 90 minutes, and I'm down 10K. I get back on the track. How am I going to get the lead back? I know I've got to stay out there for 5 hours. And then he goes down for 1 hour, and then he's back up. It's frustrating. It is frustrating because the only way you're going to reel them in is by staying out there. And Dave, it is so hard to even do that, 5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour, for 4 hours, for 5 hours, for 6 hours. It seems easy on paper,
Oh,
but it's
right.
tough in practice.
Yeah, those numbers don't really tell the story of what's happening. It's because 24 hours, 4 miles an hour, you're there 100 miles in a day, and very few people go under 24 hours on almost any course. It's a
Well,
pretty
so
big marker.
yeah, so Joe, let's go over those numbers, right? So when you ran your 606 miles, let's talk about your 6 days. So I wrote them down in front of me, and tell me if I'm wrong as well too. Day one is 137 miles. Day
Yeah,
two
that's
is
what I was.
99. Day three is 101. Day four is 95. Day five is 90, and day six is 83. That's astonishing. That's an absolutely ridiculous number. The vast majority of people that I know that run 100-mile races would give their left leg in order to run a sub 24-hour 100-mile. And you just ran 137 on day one and essentially did that for the next 5 days. So during these 6-day races, Joe, when does this start getting hard? Is it day two? Is it halfway into day one? Is it day five?
I mean, the 606 was crazy because I don't know if you know the story, but 2 days I was staying at Katie Nagy's friend's apartment, me and Dobie's, and 2 days before the race, the European style bathtub had a hand shower, and I turned on the bath water and it started shooting outside the tub. So I run over there to turn it off. My feet slip out from under me. I I land my ribs on the corner of the tub. I thought I broke my ribs. I didn't think I was going to be able to run the race. It
Hmm.
didn't hurt when I breathed, and it didn't hurt when I ran. But if I sneezed or coughed, it bring me to my knees. And so when the race started, I was concerned that I be able to run. And in a way, you know, I started out slower than I normally would have because of that. I think that helps some. I remember I went through 100 miles, 16:01, I
Wow.
think was my split at 100. And then I remember going slower. I was eating and drinking much better than I normally did. on day one. Day one, I normally have issues on a 24-hour GI issues, pushing the pace, too warm, this, that, and the other. So everything felt good other than my ribs. Um, so when I hit the 16 hours, I think I told Dobie, let's go down. Let me get my hour and a half. I got an hour and a half sleep. Felt good when I got up. Ended up doing the 137 with that 90 minutes. So I think that would have been close to probably 145, 146 had I not slept. That's a very good 24-hour run. Day two, um, uh, it seemed that the one big difference in Hungary when I did the 606 was when I would go down to sleep, be like that. Lay down, go right to sleep, wake up, felt refreshed. Hit the track running again, or hit the 800-meter loop, feeling refreshed, and as a result, I was that whole 6 days. That was the one vivid thing I remember for the most part was every time I got up back running, I was moving. I was moving good. Um, then the only bad thing was for day 2 through 5, I believe it was to do 5. It was very warm in the afternoon. That I'm not a warm temperature runner. That really hurt me. Um, I wish I had that portion over again, but up until day 6, I mean, I was just really, really focused, felt good, and the numbers each day, showed it. So,
Hey, Joe,
um,
I want to dig in a little bit on the story from before when that first 24-hour race, your competitors said, hey, you didn't see me cry in the middle of the night, this sort of acceptance that this is difficult. And I think, as we think about our listeners and even the guests that we've had on, there's this evolved capability that we develop as we go along. It's the being comfortable while uncomfortable, which it's like when we interviewed Courtney, she said, if she's not feeling uncomfortable, then she's not really going hard enough. She's looking for the discomfort, which is, I think, indicative of the kind of results that she would get or we could all get, because when we hide from that feeling, because really our system gives us some false indicators, right? When we're running 3 miles and go a little hard, we feel bad and we shouldn't, right? And it's the, very protective system that we run. So there's a mental piece of breaking through that. And do you pull on that kind of sort of mental strength in that 600-mile or 6-day kind of event that, you sort of try and forget how you feel physically and, it's not really
yeah, I mean,
relevant?
yeah, I mean, it is, and I would flash back to Mike saying, you didn't see my tears. That hey, you've gotta have that mentality when you know. And the other thing that I just remembered watching Giannis stay out there for 4 or 5 hours at a stretch when you felt like your legs were going to fall off. And it's just understanding that if you want to get the number you're chasing, then you've got to go mentally, physical, rough patches. Um, but they generally they will get better, and whether that is after you get a little bit of rest or after you get a little bit of food, generally, I mean, the great thing about when I did the 606 is there was some times day 5 when I just felt like, I was really running strong like I was on day 1.
Hmm.
But there were times too where I did not want to be out there, so I mean it's always and there's rarely an ultra, whether it's a 50K, 50 miles, 100K, 100, 24/6 day, that at some point I didn't want to quit. I mean, you know, mentally, there's always that, you know, 80% of the ultras I run, I'm dry heaving at some point of day one. I just, I get like a nasal drip from allergies or what, and I start dry heaving, and I'm like, shit, you know, this sucks, you know, but I know it goes away. I've done enough of them where I know it goes away,
Right.
you know, so
Yeah. So
it's just,
Joe,
you know,
yeah,
yeah.
another question about, the kind of the mental space and kind of the mental fortitude and how you kind of talk yourself through difficult times is, so a 6-day race is essentially 144 hours, right? And I mean, you could break it up into whatever you want. If you want to run 20 hours straight and then sleep for 4 hours or whatever it is, but the race will end at the 144th hour. But let's face it, 100 hours of running, you're dog tired, right? How do you how and I'm super super curious about your answer for this, is how do you mentally approach the idea that, okay, I'm feeling this tired, I'm feeling this bad, how on earth can I go on for another 44 hours? Where do you go in your head when that thought comes into your mind, or does that thought come into your mind?
You know, it usually relates to, you know, if I get that rest, if I go to sleep, and and whether that's, you know, I mean, usually I'm focusing on, I want 90 minutes. There's a, you know, 90 for the first 30 minutes, it's like my body's cooling down. Second 30 minutes is hell. Second 30 minutes is worse than anything to do with running, because it's like your joints, your knees, and your hips. It's just pain. Um, and then the last 30 minutes is when I would feel like I'd get just a deep sleep. So that was my theory, you know, for sleeping 90 minutes. Now, and then when I'd get up, I was ready to go. I mean, it had a lot to do. The second time I went back to Hungary, I couldn't sleep. Don't ask me why. I had no excuses. I don't know why, but you know, it seems like so. Um, you know, at the day five, where if 100 hours into it, you know, I'm beat up. Whether, you know, but knowing that, I felt good getting back out there and resuming my shuffling, that would lead to, you know, feeling good, was, you know, enough experience that I gained from, let's say, the 3 day or the first 6 day, that I knew I should be able to come through to this. Now, the last day, the 83 miles, um, I fell apart. You know, I fell apart that last day. You know, but you know, you can't have a perfect 6 days all the time.
No,
No,
just
no.
6 days finishing is good. So you've been involved in the sport for a while. You've, went from the 100 to 24 hour, the 6 day. But the sport's evolving. We got some pretty fast people, and we got lots more people willing to go. How do you feel about how the sport has been evolving in ultra running, and how do you see fitting into the way that, certainly throwing 2020 out the window because none of us could really do what we wanted. But how do you think the sport's doing overall? What's your sort of view?
Oh, I mean, you know what, is much of a impact that the pandemic, and you know, has had on life and and running and our races, you know, all of you have done with virtual running within backyard, and you know, seeing 20,000 people sign up for Laz's, you know, race across Tennessee is just it's phenomenal. It, you know, and the technology, and watching, you know, Killian go for, you know, a 24-hour record, or watching Desert Solstice. I mean, you know, it's great. It's as good as the Super Bowl to me. You know, I mean, it's coming a long way, and not only for men, it's the same thing for women. The women are more enjoyable, you know, watching, and they're gonna end up, taking the overall records, and I think it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited about the future.
What do you think
Oh,
about
yeah.
Walmsley's 100K adventure coming up here, January 23rd? He's going to try and break the record. But what's interesting
Yeah,
is he's got a stacked group of people running with him too. My God, they're trying to break
yeah, I
six
haven't,
hours, which is insane. But
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't seen who all signed up, but you look at, I have had the pleasure of running and spending a couple days with Valmir Nunes from Brazil, who's I think he was 618. He used to be the world record holder, and he's run 170 miles in 24 hours. He was like a 217 marathoner, and seeing some of the young, fast, true fast. I had the pleasure, since the dome, we weren't able to do, did go when we tried doing a 50 first lap, and was dropped by almost, probably almost half the lap. It was crazy, So it's just bringing another element that we haven't seen before, and
Mhm.
people could, you do the math all the time, saying, hey, this, they're X, 100. I mean, I want to see Walmsley do a 24-hour. I want to see Walmsley do a 6 day. Uh,
Mhm.
that's what brings a lot of the excitement in, is to say, hey, let's see what some of these. I think Harvey Lewis is likely stepping up to the 6 day later this year. There's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
be
gonna be fun to watch.
yeah, it's gonna be some fun
we
stuff.
had Harvey was on the show, Pete was on the show.
Mhm.
Uh, we've been privileged. Of course, we got Dave's going for the Trans Canadian record next year, so we're going to
Sure,
be reporting that. And I think it's what's fascinating is um, that it just goes to show over and over again that the limits we have are in our head. The one we always say is the Roger Bannister, 4 minute mile was the beginning of that breakthrough. And so when we stop thinking about what we can't do and let ourselves dream about what we can do, a lot more happens in our favor. And we often associate really good ultra runners with people who get older, but I think we're going to see it grow into younger and younger people as well, who are going to just find it fascinating.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing, Joe, is that if anybody follows you on Facebook, it's really a lot of fun, because you certainly don't mind throwing little challenges out here and predictions and on and so forth. And I remember you're quite vocal, quite uh, interested in the conversations back and forth with Killian Jornet going after YK's 24-hour record. So seeing as how that went down, and his pacing and everything on the front end, at the beginning, and before I get to ask the question, I'll give my opinion, I guess, first, is that it's not his event. He's a mountain runner, and he's the world's best at that. Like, there's no question. He's a phenomenal athlete, but he's not a 24-hour track runner. And I don't think that he, even on his very best day, maybe even after 4 or 5 races, I just don't think that he would end up breaking YK's 303-kilometer world record. Do you think that Killian Jornet has it in him to topple that record?
No, no. I mean, he's the best, mountain runner by far. But I mean, it's a different, different sport. Um,
Mhm.
you could do it all day on paper, and yes, you could do it. As well as a lot of, not a lot, but there's several other that, Walmsley being one, that you know if they truly have the passion to do it. I mean, that's what I mean when you look at YK. I think, and I looked at it. It was like his 18th 24-hour that he did that. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
he had done 20 road marathons. And, and when he did, he was like 31 years old or something. So he didn't do it in his first one. He didn't do it in the second. He was, I mean, that was his life. And, and he's an outlier to start with for, the 24 6 day. So, I mean, there's just a big difference. Let's see Killian do 160 miles first or 170 miles. And then then maybe do 180. Then we'll talk about breaking 188, But I mean, I am by no means criticizing. I want to see as many, I'm here to, shout on the rooftops. Let's do the 24, let's do the 48, let's do the 72, let's do the 6 day. Multi-day running is fun. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we see that.
What are your races for 2021 that you've signed up for?
I mean, I'm signed up for the Dome. I mean, we're still hoping that the Dome, happens. That's really going to be my hopefully goal race. That's really going to be what I'm looking for, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does a training week look like for you, Joe?
Usually I ramp up from my bread and butter is probably 50, 60 miles a week. And then I'll go up to, let's say, 90 miles a week. And when that's usually probably three doubles during the week. So I think getting a little bit more frequent runs during the day, help give you some base. So nothing. I'm not a special runner when it comes to training. I'm a meat and potatoes marathon guy. So.
Not like Dave over here who just throws out 50Ks, 100Ks,
There
whenever
you
he
go.
wants.
Right. That's
We love.
my wife was saying, "Did you see Dave? Did you see what is all this thing?" I'm like, I can't do that. Yeah.
Well,
That's
it's a different training schedule and things, and who knows?
and Dave,
Maybe I'm just a little bit worried that if I let go off the pedal, it'll all go to crap. Who knows?
well, Dave, I mean, I am like I said, you are on the short list of guys that could do the 160. I mean, you've already done the 160 and 24, but you've got both the 24-hour potential and you've got the 6 day. So I really want to see you, do more attempts, more races. And you're young enough where you've got plenty of years too to get it done. So keep at it.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, we're
thank you,
trying
Joe.
to.
Like I know personally, like I've tried the 6 day. I've done it twice now, and I had my ass handed to me. That whole sleep thing, and I need to sort other things out first because, and I've got some other goals with with backyard and with 24-hour, and of course the run across Canada and things. But I just turned 40, and Joe, I guarantee you, I'm going to be out at 6 day races. Just probably not in the next 2 years.
Sure. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with
we're trying to get Dave and Pete to do a challenge together. Where's it not for the pandemic and its sort of constraints around planning and all that, but we're going to try and, one of the things we've found out, Joe, is that a lot of the guys and women who are, finding these 100, 200, 300-mile distances interesting, whether it's through bigs or other formats, are like, oh, I think I might want to try Transcon. And when you start thinking Transcon, of course, a 6 day is another step in that kind of direction because you're going to be, well, Mr. Proctor here is going to try and run 100K a day for months. So, you can sort of parlay those kinds of. So I think we're going to see some exciting, different races happen over the next couple of years. FKTs are really, showing what's possible. It's great. And I think the more that we do stuff like you're saying, hey, Dave, I think you should go do this, and we support each other in this sport that we love because it is so different. It'll be a lot of fun this year and into next year when we're all vaccinated and able to
Absolutely.
hug each other, right?
Yeah, that's, I don't know how I probably once every few months I may have a couple beers and send Courtney or Gina Slavy. I'm like, I'm gonna sign you up. I'm signing up for 6 day, so I keep egging on, I'd love to see Courtney. Olivier is going to be Olivier LeBlanc. Look out for him. When he tries the 6 day, you're going to see some big stuff from him too.
Yeah.
So
So what do you think the number would be? What do you think the next number is in the 6 day? What's like,
I mean, I think Olivier is, he's 24. You look at his 48. I mean, that's his big time. So I truly
Oh, yeah, it looks like we're getting
think
some connection issues here.
he can be 1,000 kilometer guy,
Mhm.
maybe.
yep. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I think
Yeah.
we're in for some fun ahead. I think well, we're also planning on being out at the Dome as long as everything is safe and we're good to be there. So give a couple of different members of the team who are going to go out there and support the
Good.
racers, and also try our own version of 24. So we're up there, and of course supporting Dave. So as we wrap up here, Joe, first we appreciate what you got going on, and some of your stature in the industry is fun to hang out with you. We asked you what your next race is, but as you think about the next sort of couple of years, what's your chasing tomorrow? What's your big goal? To hang up those sneakers on.
607.
All right.
I love it. Yeah. Just
That's
throwing out a number. Why not 608? Why not 610?
That's right. Why limit myself, right? There you
Yeah.
go.
Do
how
not do that. There, yeah, in 6 days, 144 hours, if you can't find, a couple extra ways to get a couple extra miles here and there, yeah, there's something wrong. So no, Joe, I love it. I want to wish you the very best in 2021 and all the racing, and in 2022 and moving forward. And here's hoping for more than a 607 in the years to come.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe, for being on with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Appreciate it. Thank you.